Ella. So let me just do that. I'm just going to stop our transcription. 2 seconds. Great. So thank you so much in advance, Ella. I will hand over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we'll just share some slides with you guys. So thanks so much for joining. And yes, hopefully this session will cover everything you need to know to support your young person through student finance and applying for this for when they go to university later this year. So the session will look at, if we could just move the slide along slightly, finance, tuition fees and maintenance costs, scholarships and bursaries, as well as costs, support and budgeting and repayments as well. So these are all the main areas of student finance. The information in this presentation is correct for the 2024/25 academic year. So if your young person is thinking about university next year, it might be slightly different, but this should be everything that you need to know for this autumn. So first of all, what is student finance? So student finance is support that is provided by the Student Loans Company, which is also known as Student Finance England. And this is kind of the main cost of going to university. So Student Finance England is the company that will be providing that support, that financial support for your young person when they go to university. And the Student Loans Company is another kind of logo that you've seen on the slide here, that is kind of to do with repayments after they have finished university. But essentially, student finance is the cost of going to university, and it encompasses two main areas. So this is tuition fees and living costs, which is also known as maintenance costs as well. So if we could just move slide slightly. Thank you. So there's two main areas of student finance. So tuition fee support is the tuition fee loan, and then maintenance support is kind of a separate pot of money, which is made up from the maintenance loan and any scholarships and bursaries. So we'll go over this all in more detail over the next few slides. The tuition fee loan is kind of that main area of that kind of course cost, and the tuition fee loan covers the full cost of your young person's course, and the maximum a university can charge for this in the UK per academic year is £9,250. It is available to all UK students on a full-time undergraduate course, and it is not income assessed. So the tuition fee loan covers the full fee of the course that your young person will be studying when they're at university. The tuition fee loan is paid directly to the university when your young person enrolls and registers on their course. So it's common myth that if people apply for student finance but don't go to university, they might be able to still get that money. It doesn't work that way. Your young person does need to register for their course, and the university that they go to will then get in touch with Student Finance England to tell them that your young person is studying with them, and that money will then get moved over to the university that they study at. It is worth noting that there is nothing to pay before or during their course, and the repayments will be afterwards, after they graduate. But looking at the maintenance costs, so this is the cost of living. So at university, this will be things like their food, their books. It might even be things like gym membership. It might be their phone contract, all the essentials for everyday life at university. And where they go and how they spend their money will affect their cost of living. So this will be reflected a little bit later on in the presentation with kind of the area that they might go to university in, whether that's in London or outside of London. But thinking about if they go out for dinner 4 or 5 times a week, how they spend their money will affect their cost of living, as opposed to doing a weekly food shop and batch cooking and things like that as well. So that is their kind of cost of living. If we can move on to the next slide, please. As with the tuition fee loan, the maintenance loan is available to all UK students on a full-time undergraduate course, like it was with the tuition fee loan, but it's slightly different in the sense that it is paid directly to the student in 3 instalments. So this is usually at the start of each academic term. So for students at the University of Essex, this is usually the start of October, mid-January and mid-April. The term dates for universities do vary slightly, but it's usually at the start of their academic term. And what they get depends on 2 factors. So this is the household income and where they decide to study. So whereas with a tuition fee loan, it is not income assessed, there is this income assessment with the maintenance loan that does kind of take part there. Applicants with a household income below £25,000 will receive the maximum maintenance loan available. However, household incomes over the threshold will just receive the non-income assessed part of the loan. So as you can see on the slide here, where they decide to go to university, whether that's outside of London, in London, or where they want to stay at home and commute to university, the income for the household limit does vary slightly there. As Rio said, that these slides will get shared with you, so please do not worry, because yeah, we'll share those with you following this presentation. But yes, the household income limit outside of London is £60,842. Inside London, the household income limit is £67,474. And if your young person is thinking about staying at home and commuting to university, the household income limit is £56,925. The maintenance loan will have the same application that they would apply to in their tuition fee loan. Parents and guardians will provide details of the applicant's household income. So your young person will be completing their application for their student finance, and they'll pop in your details, and you'll be able to be notified of this, and then you'll be able to provide some information about the household income. This is all then verified by HMRC using national insurance numbers. And sometimes it is worth noting that further evidence may be required. So it is best to get your young person to start thinking about applying for their student finance sooner rather than later, in case any evidence is required to support that application, and it gives you some time to kind of get all of that information together. So how much might your young person be eligible for? So as I mentioned, where they decide to go to university, it does vary on what might be available to them. So if they decide to move away from home but live outside of London, the non-income assessed part of this maintenance loan is £4,767. However, if they are wanting to apply up to the maximum amount available, they could get up to a further £5,460, totaling up to £10,227 to support them with their living costs when they move away to university. If they move away from home, but they decide to go to university in London, you'll see how the figures are slightly different here. And this is because the general cost of living in London is that little bit more expensive. So it is reflected in what is available. The non-income assessed part of this loan is £6,647. And then if they decide to apply to the maximum amount available, they can get up to a further £6,701. Totaling up to £13,348 to support them with their living costs at university. And then if they decide to stay at home and commute to university, the amount available is a little bit less, and their outgoings might look a little bit different as if they were to go away for university. And again, this is reflected in what is available. So the non-income assessed part of this loan is £3,790. And then if they want to apply up to the maximum loan available, they can get up to a further £4,820, totaling up to £8,610 to support them with their living costs. We could move slides. Okay, thank you. So with the maintenance loan, your young person will need to register at their university to start receiving their payments. And it is really important to budget weekly and monthly with this maintenance loan. So thinking about the things that they'll be spending the money on, whether they are thinking about moving away for university or living at home. If they are moving away, it might be rent, it might be food shops, it might be kind of buying toiletries and all those kind of things that sometimes don't kind of always come to mind at first. And this is where it's really important to budget. But then if your young person is thinking about commuting to university, they'll still want to think about budgeting. This might be looking at petrol, it might be looking at parking and running costs of cars, it might be buying lunches when they're at university on the days that they're in. So it's still really important to budget weekly and monthly there. There is loads of advice and support available provided by universities for this as well. There's also some useful information on the UCAS website and the government website too. So I strongly recommend your young person reaching out to universities that they're thinking about going to see what support is available to them when they go to university. So for many students, this might be the first time that they manage their own money. And so that support is there to support them with that transition to thinking about what they might be spending the money on and how to make that last when they get their maintenance loan. Moving on to scholarships and bursaries. So universities offer their own non-repayable support, which is a great way to help your young person with the cost of living at university. The awards available and the eligibility criteria do vary between institutions. So it's really worth doing some research into these to know what your young person might be eligible for. Some of them might be automatically assigned to your young person. Others they might need to apply to. So it's really worth looking into their UCAS choices and having a look at that support available from those universities and kind of thinking about how do they get that scholarship or bursary if there is the one available to them. We've got a few on this slide here that we have at the University of Essex for 2024 starters. So we have the Essex Futures Bursary, which is up to £3,000, and this is a cash bursary and accommodation discount support package of a variable amount awarded to those with a household income below £35,000. We then have the schools membership bursary awarded to those progressing from schools membership schools and colleges. So there is more information about these online, along with the terms and conditions on how to apply to these if an application is needed. We then have our £2,000 International Baccalaureate Excellence Scholarship, which is a cash bursary available to those who achieve 34 points or above in the International Baccalaureate. We then have lots of sports scholarships and bursaries, which are kind of different ways of doing this. So there might be fee discounts up to 100%. It might be cash bursaries, it might be performance coaching and support services for high performance athletes. And there is an application needed for this one. And then we have the £250 Essex Preparation Programme bursary as well. And this is a really great way to get some money that they don't have to pay back, but also help them transition to university studies. So it is focused around a study skills programme. It's a short online course and there is a cash bursary attached to that to those that complete this before the deadline. As with the previous slide, full information and terms and conditions are available online. But like I said, these scholarships and bursaries are offered by many universities, but they all look very different. So it is worth doing some research on what is available to your young person, what they might be able to apply for, and what might be automatically assigned to them, and seeing what might be involved in the process of being able to be awarded those as well. So these are just a few that we have at Essex, but it's really worth looking into those other ones that are offered from your university choices. There is lots of other support available. So there is the Disabled Students Allowance. We do have the Hardship Fund as well. But then our Students' Union also have financial advice, support and loans too. So if your young person is struggling financially and they are looking for some advice and some support, then I would recommend that they go to their university, their Students' Union, as there might be additional support that their university might be able to provide them. There's also online finance courses provided by Black Bullion, which is a great online resource to help them start thinking about how to manage their money at university. And then on our website as well, we've got some additional support available, essex.ac.uk/student money cost of living. And this outlines some of the support that we have for students when they are with us at the University of Essex. So if your young person is considering living at home whilst at university, we've got some information on the slide here. So I've got some of the information about the maintenance loan that is available, but there are some things to consider. So the maintenance loan for living at home is slightly less than if a student was to live at university during their time of study. However, living at home means financial outgoings may differ to students living at university. So I've briefly touched on this already. But rent may be paid to parents and carers instead of paying for accommodation costs, so this might look slightly different. Food costs may be more focused on buying daily lunches for university instead of weekly food shops, which may condense costs. Travel costs might be slightly higher if your young person is thinking about commuting to university than if they were to live at home, so it is worth looking at those commuting costs, but this maintenance loan is there to support them with any costs incurred there. And also course materials, clothing, leisure and other materials may remain similar to if a student was living at university. So there is a few things to consider there. Sometimes commuting is a lot more affordable, sometimes it can be more expensive than if they were to live in university accommodation. It just depends where they're thinking of studying and the modes of transport of commuting as well. So these are just a few things that you and your young person might want to consider when thinking about those university options and the choices that they'll be making. So the cost of living crisis, so in response to the national cost of living crisis, to support our students, we have made the financial support more accessible to all students that need it at the University of Essex. We've provided a wide range of scholarships and bursaries to ensure students can start with us, regardless of the country that they are applying from and their situation. We've continued to make sure that accommodation costs at Essex include energy bills and internet access, and we have increased the hardship fund from the £489,000 available to students in 2022 to £1.5 million in the academic year 2023/24. So we continue to support our students financially when they are in need, and if they are facing financial hardship, then at university, I would strongly recommend that they reach out to their universities to see what support is available there. We have reduced the cost of essential groceries in our campus stores, and we have introduced daily £2 hot meals in our food outlets on campuses. So students can get a hot meal at a nicer price. We've organised a wide range of free activities and events available to students, and we are a voluntary living wage employer at the university, both from the university and our students' union and student jobs as well. So if you'd like to find out more about how we're supporting our students financially and with the cost of living, please do head to our website, essex.ac.uk, and you'll be able to find out more information there on how we're supporting students through the cost of living crisis. So when it comes to repaying student loans, this is something that your young person will not be doing until after they graduate. So like I said at the start, they will not be paying anything before or during their course. It will be the April after they graduate, and if they are earning over the set threshold set by the government. So this will be £25,000 a year for those starting in autumn 2024. So your young person will not be repaying their student loan until they're earning over this amount and the April after they graduate, and they will stop repaying if their salary drops below the set threshold during their working career. So whether they might decide to do a career change, a career break, go travelling, whatever it might be, if their salary drops below this point at any time during their working career, they will not be repaying it back until it's over that amount again. So how is it all calculated? So their repayment figure combines their tuition fee loan, their maintenance loan, and accrued interest. And repayments are 9% of anything they earn over this set threshold. These payments are taken automatically from their salary. It is listed as a deduction on their payslip. So it's not like they need to set up a direct debit to student loans company or anything like that. It's all done through national insurance numbers and HMRC, and those payments are taken automatically in their pay. So with the monthly repayments, to give you an idea of how much your young person might be repaying on their student loan, if they are earning less than £25,000 per year before tax, their monthly salary before tax will be £2,083 and their monthly repayment will be nothing. If they're earning slightly more than this, at £29,500 per year before tax, their monthly take-home before tax will be £2,458 and their monthly repayment will be £33. And then if they are earning slightly more than this at £33,000 per year, their monthly salary before tax will be £2,750 and their monthly repayment will be £60. So this kind of hopefully highlights to you that it is entirely based on how much they earn as a graduate, as to how much they'll be paying back each month, and not how much they borrowed as a student at university. This is all based on the threshold of £25,000, and it is worth noting that anything outstanding after 40 years is written off. So whether they've paid almost all of it back or only half of it back, however much that might be, after 40 years, that does get wiped away. With the interest rate, so interest accrues on their student loan as soon as they start their course. And once they have graduated, the interest rate will normally be set at RPI, or standard rate of inflation in the UK, regardless of their income level. With some additional information here, so student loans do not factor into credit ratings, and it's very unlikely that a student loan will affect their ability to get a mortgage in the future. There is this common myth that if you move overseas in the future, they will stop repaying their student loan. Unfortunately, this is not the case. If they're still earning over that set threshold, they will still be repaying back their loan based on their earnings as a graduate and not how much they borrowed. And as I said, again, repayments are based entirely on their earnings as a graduate. It is worth just thinking about, is it cheaper to live at home and commute? It's not always the way, but it is sometimes. So if your young person is thinking about going to university more locally, it might be worth just looking at those commuting costs and the cost of living on campus to see which is best for them there. And then if they decide to repay their student loan early, that is fine. They can do so if they're in a position to do that. But they might find it that it's more convenient to pay it back monthly based on their earnings instead. So it's something to think about. But yeah, there's no early repayment penalty, but is it convenient? So it's something to just bear in mind as well. So we do have a few useful links for you here. So gov.uk/student finance is where the student finance applications will be made through. And I will just also mention that these student finance applications are made each year. So your young person will get prompted to reapply for their student finance via email in the springtime of each year that they're at university. And this will then kind of trigger you to then get that email to then support that application again. We then have the repaying your student loan part of the government website too, which gives you more information about student loan repayments. We have the essex.ac.uk website with lots of student finance information as well. I do have a recording of our student finance talk on there as well. So if there is anything you missed from this talk or want to check over again, then there will be a video on our website there. We then have Black Bullion, which is where I said about the online courses, if your young person is thinking about looking at budgeting and managing their money. And then we also have some more care related funding and fee information there too. So we've got that on our own website, but also the NHS website too, as there is a learner support fund for students who are studying courses that are kind of aligned to healthcare there. And that is nhsbsa.nhs.uk. So it might be worth to, if your young person is thinking about studying a health related subject, to see if there's any additional funding available to them as well. So when it comes to applying for student finance, applications are now open. So I would encourage your young person and you to get those applications in. Like I said, there is a section for the applicant to complete, and then they'll pop in your details, and there'll be a section for the guardian and parents. And like I said, you will need to apply for this each academic year. If anything does change between now and when they do go to university, whether they change their course, change their university, they might go from thinking of studying a 4-year course to a 3-year course. Please do keep Student Finance England updated with that information, just so they can ensure that the right money is being paid to the right place for the right course and is for the right amount as well. So if anything does change, whether it's course related, university related, or even just personal details, do ensure that Student Finance England are kept up to date with that information. But yes, those applications are now open, so do start thinking about applying for that with their intended place of study if they have already made that decision. And those applications can be made via gov.uk/student-finance. So that is it from me. I hope that has covered everything everyone was hoping to know more about. If anyone does have any questions, please do feel free to pop those in the Q&A, and I'll be happy to answer those towards the end after the rest of the team have delivered some more information. But also we do have lots of information on our website, and you're also welcome to reach out to us on live chat as well.
Great, thank you so much, Ella. That was really useful, and I think there's always so much information, and like you say about the myths and things. I think there's often students hear a lot of different myths around student finance, so it's really nice to be able to kind of address some of that as well. So I'll just share my screen, and we've got some slides to be delivered from our progression to HE team. So hopefully you can all see that. I'm sure Ella or Phoebe or anyone can shout if you can't. So as I mentioned, obviously we are now part of the Futures team. So across all 3 colleges, your students will have access to careers advisors, but also advisors for work placements and work experience. So although obviously this is a progression to HE talk, this slide here is just to remind them to definitely utilise those other staff members within the colleges. So I'm going to deliver, if this will let me, yes, I'm going to deliver the slide on Abbeygate. So for those of you that have students at Abbeygate, they will have been supported by our wonderful progression to HE advisor, Ellie Jenkins, who sadly left us today. It's her last day today, so that's why she isn't on this call. We will be replacing Ellie with another, I hope, equally as wonderful HE advisor. But just so you know, in the meantime, if you do have students at Abbeygate Sixth Form College, I'll be picking up the work and the support that Ellie was doing for those students, so they can absolutely still access all of this. There shouldn't be any change in the support that's available to them, and potentially we'll also see staff that are on this call as well. So obviously a lot of information that you've heard today is around, you know, the student finance in general, but also I think exactly as Ella said, it's about doing the research and students really understanding that cost of living at the university location that they're going to, and really understanding it from their own specific perspective. So on here we've got one-to-one support as some of the support that we offer, and that's actually a really good opportunity for students to be able to book in with us, and we can do some budgeting exercises with them. We can help them with that research, we can help them looking at the rent costs, and we can sit and use the student finance calculator to work out how much student finance they might be eligible for, and then help them put together a relevant budget. So I do really encourage students to use that. We have done a variety of events so far. So during the application process, we ran personal statement drop-ins every week. We've had universities come and visit us. We've had a What Happens Next talk, and we have had a student finance talk from ARU, and then also an in-person student finance talk. We'll be running student finance clinics. So sometimes students or parents can attend these talks. They're really useful. They get lots of information, and then actually they go to start that application. I think, oh my God, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. So we'll be running student finance clinic at Abbeygate Sixth Form College, where students can come along. We'll have a computer room and they can start those applications with us in the room. So if they have got any questions, then they can do that. And then just on the screen here, but of course we'll share this round, is our QR code for our careers referral form. So that's our futures referral form. Students can fill that out themselves, and they can ask for a one-to-one appointment, and then either myself or our careers advisor Maria Austin will get in touch with the students to arrange that. So that's over at Abbeygate Sixth Form College, and then we have obviously West Suffolk College, so I'll hand over to Ryan and David.
Okay, so I'm Ryan, the progression to HE advisor at West Suffolk College. So I work in the team, so it's made up of myself and also David Pulford, our higher education champion. So our roles, we are supporting students with one-to-one appointments. We're also doing events, including having universities coming, so having exhibitions during the week. We've had speakers. So recently we've had Anglia Ruskin University support us with the student finance sessions. And also we run lunchtime sessions and course specific support. Recently, we've been doing course specific sessions with Anglia Ruskin. So they've been going into course director time to visit and give bespoke support for different courses, which have different needs when it comes to student finance. And we also will be running student finance clinics in April/May. So after the Easter holidays, I'll be booking a IT lab, and what we'll be doing is helping students through the nuts and bolts of the student finance application. What's quite nice is that we have quite a large team working over at West Suffolk. So David works as part of the Widening Participation NICO project. So if I'm not around, because I'm supporting both here and Access students at West Suffolk College, then David can be around to support the work of our young people. And again, we have a referral form that is in the slides. And what we do is we'll just book you in an appointment, and then we can support your students. At the moment, what we're doing is we're doing a lot of work supporting students through student finance, and obviously a lot of the work that's going on the ground here at West Suffolk is surrounding getting students onto student finance, helping them with specific technical questions. So if you've got very specific technical questions or questions about your individual circumstances, do drop us an email. And what we can do is we have contact with Student Finance. We have information available to us that can hopefully advise you to ensure that you're providing the correct information. So there's a lot of support that's going on with Student Finance, and we'll be doing drop-in sessions as well after Easter. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Ryan. And then over to Phoebe for One Sixth Form College.
Perfect, thank you, Rio. Hi everyone, I am Phoebe and I am the Progression to HE Advisor at One Sixth Form College. I am based in the Green Zone, Monday to Friday, 8:30 till 4:30, and my email address is on the screen now if you need any advice or guidance from me. I support with university applications, help with finding the right courses, help finding the right locations of universities, student finance information, help with sorting out accommodation, and support with extra or clearing. If you would like a one-to-one meeting, or your student would like to have a one-to-one meeting with me, you can scan the QR code that is on the left of my screen. But they're also around the college on posters, or they can speak to their PPT or a teacher who can refer them on the referral form. After this is filled out, we can then have a one-to-one meeting and we can talk for about 30 minutes to an hour with me answering any questions that that student might have. We also have a careers advisor who's called Louise O'Dwyer, who can advise about the best career pathway for your young person. So if they think that they would like to do an apprenticeship as a backup or a second option, then they can also scan that QR code and have a meeting with Louise. Since the beginning of the year, we've also had a few events. So we've had 2 student finance events with the University of Suffolk for students, and we've also had an in-person event for parents already. We also had 5 universities come in for National Careers Week, which was from the 4th to the 8th of March, and that was UpDC at West Suffolk College, University of Suffolk, Essex University, Norwich University of the Arts, and Anglia Ruskin University, and all 5 universities had stalls in the atrium. As of this week, we are going to begin the Thursday lunchtime drop-in sessions for students to come along to if they need any support with student finance. And this will be in the Green Zone where I am based, and we can have access to the computers there. We also have the What's on Wednesday Padlets, which you can scan to access, where both university and career advice is posted for students to sign up to and join events that have been posted on there. The link to the Padlet is on the left, and that's also posted around on posters around the college. And so yes, that's it for me. So I'll hand back to Rio and Ella where they can answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you so much, Phoebe. So hopefully that shows you, obviously, this is kind of just that start of the conversation. If students do have questions, then they can come to us. But also parents, if we have any of you that kind of leave this call and think, oh, actually, I'd like to talk about that bit more, please do use those email addresses. We're more than happy to give you a call and have a conversation as well. So we'll go through a couple of the question and answers on the chat here. So a couple of them have been answered. Ryan's been putting some answers in as we go. So I'm just going to scroll down and try to be fair and do it in time order. So I think the oh yes, so actually this is a really good question and something we can definitely answer. But the question is, I may have missed this, but what happens if they apply for student finance and then they don't go to university? And I guess there's 2 parts of this question. The first part I'll kind of say and then hand over to you is that actually we get a lot of students who aren't sure whether they're going to go to their firm or insurance, or they might not have made their firm or insurance choices yet, or they might not know which university they want to go to yet. So they can make their application with the university that they think they're most likely to go to, and that gets their application in the system. It gets all of that evidence starting the processing, and then they can make changes to that afterwards. Student finance are very aware that students have firm choices, insurance choices. They know things might move about, and so they can be quite flexible. If they don't go to university at all, Ella, is that the same?
Yes, so just if your young person gets the results date, or perhaps even kind of later in August or early September, and they decide that they don't want to go to university, then just let the university know that they're not going to be going, but also advise Student Finance England that they will not be going to university, and they should be able to kind of withdraw that student finance application. It might also be the case of if your young person is thinking about deferring university, Like I said, the information in the slides were correct for 2024 entry, but if that is something to that your young person might be thinking about, then it might be slightly different next year. So they'll need to reapply for student finance for the following year anyway. So yeah, just keep Student Finance England up to date with their kind of decisions and where they're wanting to go, if they want to go, what course they're studying, and they'll kind of take care of the application and the processes behind that as well.
Thank you. So the next one we have is, can tuition fees be increased midway through their course? And again, kind of I'd say two answers to this. There is a cap on university course fees that is at 9,250. So universities certainly can't go over that. And most universities will charge 9,250. There's very few universities that charge reduced fees, and that does depend on the course. So you'd be expecting most universities to be 9,250. If they're not, Ella, do you think that universities can increase that midway through the course, or would that be unfair and that they would have?
That hasn't been something we have seen happen, so I would be surprised if that was something to be brought in. But yeah, at the moment, the most university can charge is £9,250 per year for their course. So yeah, it's very unlikely that it will happen. But yeah, there's caps at that moment.
So we've got a question on here about maintenance loan, but that has been answered by Ryan. So I'll just go past that one for a second. So students doing health related courses in Welsh universities, do you have any information about that we can share on that? So Claire, what we can do is we can take a look at that afterwards and put you in touch with Student Finance England. That might be a better way to do that one, just because it's quite specific to Welsh universities. Unless, Ella, you do have a secret pocket of knowledge around Welsh universities.
So unfortunately, I was going to say the same. I have got the Student Finance England number that I can pop into the chat as well. So if you do want to give them a call, then I'll pop that into the chat to help you there. But yeah, they're the ones that will be able to kind of advise you on that one.
Perfect, thank you. So the next one I'm going to answer is a really common question we get from parents, and it's because everyone comes from a slightly different situation, but it's whether, if you feel that you can actually cover the living costs or the tuition fees, whether it's still worth going ahead and applying for student finance. And I think that there's a very formal answer to this, and then I think there's everybody's perspective on as an answer for this. I think if you can afford to support your students, the maintenance loan is a contribution towards living costs. So actually the students will most likely all students will have to find some way of topping up that money, and that is most likely a part-time job or receiving additional support from their families. So actually it might be a fine line between whether actually what you can cover is the additional support that they need on top of the maintenance loan. Whether or not you can or cannot cover the tuition fees and the living costs without any need for student loan is quite a personal decision. If a student believes that actually those 9% payments monthly aren't a huge significant impact to them, I think we've had discussions before where we've said, Ryan and I were saying that the phone contract is actually more of a payment than your tuition fee and your maintenance loan. You might want to save that money for something else, if they're saving up for a mortgage or if they're saving up to get a car and things like that. So it is quite a personal decision. It really depends on how much impact the student thinks that 9% on their earnings will have. I don't know if you, Ella, or anyone else from the team wants to add anything to that question.
The thing I was going to add is that a lot of students do like to get part-time jobs, not just to kind of help with their cost of living at university, but also it's a really nice way that they can meet new people, gain new skills, and really add to their work experience as well. So not just to gain that extra money, but to really build up their skill set as well. So I would love having a part-time job at university, and I would really encourage young people to continue doing that, because I've made some really good friends through my part-time jobs, and some of those experiences as a student ambassador has kind of led me to different areas in my working career as well and build up their skills. So yeah, I would strongly recommend looking at part-time jobs at university for that reason too.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I had, hear often of students leaving university with a degree, but actually employers want that degree, absolutely, but they also want those employability skills that students can gain from their part-time work, and they want students to be able to evidence experiences of the workplace. So yeah, I agree, there's lots of different benefits for having a part-time job. I'm going to do one more on the Q&A, and then we've got some in the chat as well. Somebody's asked if there's a deadline for student finance, and actually we were just talking about that before we joined the call. Student finance do have it's not a deadline as such, but it's a date in May where they say that if you apply by that date in May, they will guarantee that you will receive your money for the start of your course. That date is very elusive. We were trying to research it on the Student Finance website. It hasn't been massively published at the moment, but what we will be doing is contacting Student Finance, and then when we send the slides round, we'll be able to confirm the date on the email that we send round afterwards. You can apply afterwards, but it's that date in May that they kind of offer that guarantee of receiving it by the time you start your course. There is a question on here specifically about interest rates, and although we can look at that for you, what we will also do after this is share the student finance information and the websites, which actually gives a lot more detail around the interest rates as well. So I'll just move to the chat. There's a couple of questions in there. So the first one we have is, if you start your university course and are living at home, but you don't initially apply for a maintenance loan, can you start your course and then apply the academic year for it? So maybe the person's going to be living at home, they don't think they'll need a maintenance loan, but actually then they do need the maintenance loan. Essentially, can they make an in-year student finance application?
Not 100% certain on this one, I'm afraid. But I would suggest reaching out to Student Finance England, and they'll be able to provide some more information on this. Circumstances might change when they're studying, so that is something that they might be aware of and kind of bear that in mind. So yeah, I don't want to say for certain, but I would say reach out to Student Finance England, and they'll be able to kind of advise you a bit more on that one.
And so that does kind of prompt a couple of other things, I guess. So they will absolutely, as Ella said, they'll have to reapply every single year. So they'll absolutely be able to make an application for their second year and then their third year. The other thing that kind of prompts is changes in year. So if this is particularly true if you're self-employed, for example, or if you change job roles whilst you're supporting your student at university, if your income does change by a certain amount within the year, you can make an amendment form in year to notify Student Finance that your income has changed. So if your income drops, and I really apologise, I'll have to look up this figure, I think it's by 15%. During the year, and therefore your student would actually be eligible for more maintenance loan, you can do an in-year assessment, and then your student will be able to receive that money from that drop in your household income. So I would say that I think that would be possible, but I would just check with Student Finance exactly. Ryan's put it in the chat. I was right, 15%. So yeah, if it is by 15%, then you can make an amendment. Great. So at the moment, I think that's us covering most of the questions that have come up in the chat. I will say that we'll just stay on the call, obviously, for the next couple of minutes. So if we do get more questions coming in, we can cover those. But obviously, before any of you do leave, I just want to say a huge thank you to Ella for visiting and for imparting all of your student finance knowledge onto all of us. That's really useful. So thank you so much for joining us. We will stay on the call for the next couple of minutes. Please do feel free to put your questions in the chat. We will, Ella, if you can put the student finance information in the chat as well, that would be great. But as I say, we'll send that round and just encourage your students to come and talk to us. We try to cover as much as we can in these sessions, but there's always going to be really specific questions that they might have or concerns that they might have. So the more you can get the students involved to come and speak to us, the better, really. So are there any documents that needed to be submitted for a tuition fee loan? That's a new question that's just come in. The tuition fee loans aren't income assessed. It is just the maintenance loan that is household income assessed. So you won't need to provide any evidence that is relevant for the tuition fee loan, but it is all one application anyway. It's one whole application that you complete. So hopefully that answered that question for you. No other questions at the moment, but Ella, lots of thank yous. So thank you.
Put into the chat the contact number for Student Finance England. So it is an 0300 number. I'll pop that in the chat, but you can just Google it. So Student Finance England contact, and then the number will pop up. But I'll pop it in the chat for convenience too.
Yeah, they're a really friendly team. They'll be more than happy to kind of chat through lots of different individual circumstances. So if we haven't covered anything today, or if we've covered something you think, oh, how might that apply to us? And then please do get in touch with them. You're very welcome to everyone putting thank yous. What we'll do is we'll stay on the call till 5:02. So just a couple more minutes if you do have any other questions. For Ella, myself, or the rest of the team, do let us know.
And I will actually just add quickly, if your young person has been invited to any offer holidays or applicant days, and they do have any further student finance related questions, then do feel welcome to ask any of the universities that they go to for information on this as well, because most universities will be able to be quite helpful in this area. So yeah, if you do have any questions on the day, at applicant days, offer holidays, anything like that, then do find a member of staff or a student finance person at the university, and they should be able to help you too.
And a big thank you to the team for answering all the questions in the chat. I can see some more answers coming in as well. So thank you to the rest of the Progression to HE team. So we will give it just 2 more minutes and we'll wait on the call. If you don't have any questions, then thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully it's been useful. We've got a few more people still on the call, so we will just wait a couple more minutes for any last minute questions that pop up. Waiting for any last minute tricky question. It's a challenge to any of you still on the call. If you've got any tricky ones, then we're ready to hear them. we like a challenge. Yes, so Sally, you've just put a message in there about recordings. So what we'll be doing is we'll be uploading this recording onto our website, and actually under the careers section of our website, there's a few recordings on there from previous events that we've done as well. So this will be recorded, uploaded onto the website, but we'll be sending the slides around as an email. It does take a little bit of time to get uploads onto the website, so I would imagine that will be on there by the end of next week, certainly by the Easter break. We have some very technical genius people that add things to the website. So yeah, that should be on by Easter, but the slides will get around as soon as possible. Great, so it's 5:02, so I think we will call it there. If anybody does have any further questions, then obviously please let us know. And I'm very impressed that we managed to finish on time. That's good going. And Ella, thank you again so much. And as I say, we will get those slides shared around to everybody. And thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your evenings, everybody. Thank you. Bye.